अस्सलाम हसन, क्या हाल है आपका?
Well, Islam, I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for taking out the time to be here. Really
Yeah, most
excited to have you
welcome.
in the podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
excited to be here as well.
great. So let's start from your introduction for people who don't know about you. कि Hasan Habib, who's Hasan Habib, designist क्या है, all those things. Can you give us a brief introduction?
Sure. My name's Hasan Habib. I'm the CEO and head of design of Designist, and we design meaningful experiences that people have with products and services using a human-centered design methodology.
Great. Okay, so हसन आपसे सबसे पहला क्वेश्चन तो मेरा ये होगा आफ्टर दिस इंट्रोडक्शन कि
Hmm.
हाउ डिड यू बिकम अ डिज़ाइनर एंड व्हाई डिड यू बिकम अ डिज़ाइनर?
How and why? Interesting. I've never really thought about it from that perspective, but I was always into art and doodling and creating and doing arts and crafts, and I knew that I did not want to go into business, even though I am from a business family. There was just something itching inside कि यार business नहीं करना. And for me, I always wanted to go to art school and do something with my creativity. So that's why I think I got into design. Second reason why I pursued design even more is that my need to fulfill this need of creation. I got rejected from design school 2 times in the Ontario College of Art and Design. And when I
ओके.
got rejected, I was like, नहीं मुझे इसमें घुसना है and मुझे सब कुछ सीखना है डिज़ाइन के बारे में क्योंकि उन्होंने बोला कि तुम्हें डिज़ाइन के बारे में कुछ नहीं पता तो आप कुछ तीसरा बार आप अप्लाई करें. I was like, sure. And that's when my need and my desire to really understand what design is and then come back and share that knowledge back home. That's why is one of the reasons why design for me.
ओके, और आपने सिर्फ एक मास्टर्स नहीं किया, यू एंडेड अप डूइंग लाइक अ डबल मास्टर्स और टू मास्टर्स इन डिज़ाइन.
जी.
लाइक क्या वो दो सेपरेट मास्टर्स हैं एंड लाइक व्हाट्स द रीज़न फॉर डूइंग लाइक आई थिंक एक काफ़ी होना चाहिए था टू फुलफिल दैट नीड.
So my first master's was in digital media management. And the reason I did that master's was because I was telling you about my education. I actually never ended up getting a bachelor's degree. And I knew that coming back to Pakistan and teaching design or working in design, nobody would take you seriously if you didn't have a degree in your hand. So my first master's purpose was वापस कागज ले लो और वापस चले जाओ और फिर प्रैक्टिस कर सकोगे seriously. The
Okay, but
and
but you did like you did graduate from Vancouver Film School, right?
yes,
So
so those
wasn't
were
it like
diploma
a
programs.
degree pro?
No, no, those
All
were
right, okay.
diplomas. So I did a bunch of diplomas, but no degree. So what ended
Okay.
up happening is that कुछ तो चाहिए था ना. आप जानते हैं पाकिस्तानियों को डिग्री या डिग्री क्या है डिप्लोमा तो बोले वो. So that was
Yeah.
the reason I did the first one. The reason I did the second one was I got familiar with service design and experience design. And Hyper Island, the school I went to, had just offered this new degree in purely experience design. And the way the school was set up was that they gave you a project, they gave you a team, and they gave you industry mentors, and they said just go and do it. You know, they threw in the deep end. And for me, coming back to Pakistan, I was not after the first masters, I was not getting the opportunity to truly practice human-centered design the way I was taught during my masters. So I thought, okay, let me go and get some more projects under my belt, and then maybe carve a way to doing this in Pakistan when I return. So that's why I did the second masters.
Okay. So when you say human-centered design, you like describe Designist as a human-centered design agency. Uh, what is human-centered design? Like, how is it different from any other design approach or design methodology? Like, what's the specific uh, feature of that?
Sure. I mean, for most people who don't know what human-centered design, I mean, design thinking is the common word that most people use. I tend to not use it as much because जो भी पोस्टर्स लगा लेता है दीवारों पे वो समझ लेता है कि वो कोई डिजाइन थिंकिंग एक्सपर्ट बन गया है. So I've
Right.
stopped using it as much. But essentially what design thinking or human centered design is it's and how it's different than other design disciplines is I don't think it's different than other design disciplines. It's a way of approaching design disciplines. So the
Mhm.
very nature of it is that the human is at the core of what you're trying to solve for. So if design is seen as a problem solving methodology, then human centered
Mhm.
design is looking at that methodology purely from the end user's perspective and really putting them at the heart of it and empathizing with what you need to make. Very
Mhm.
contradictory to what happens in Pakistan. Pakistan में senior
Mhm.
ने बोल दिया या सेठ ने बोल दिया तो बना दो क्योंकि they probably think they know best.
Yeah.
But if you truly practice it, you get down on a grassroots level and you really understand कि
Mhm.
लोगों के needs क्या हैं, desires क्या हैं, and then you design based on that.
Mhm. ओके, तो आप मास्टर्स करके पाकिस्तान वापस आए. डिड यू वर्क देयर लाइक व्हाइल यू वर स्टडीइंग योर फॉर योर मास्टर्स? क्या डिड यू स्टार्टेड लाइक प्रैक्टिसिंग डिज़ाइन एज अ प्रोफेशनल देयर या नहीं?
So between my Vancouver Film School, where I did actually a diploma in a foundation in art and design and classical animation, then digital design,
Mhm.
which covered your motion graphics, interaction
Mhm.
design, branding and communication.
Mhm.
Between that, I worked 2 years in Canada and I worked in interactive children's storybooks and in
Okay,
motion graphics with this company
interesting.
called ED Films. It's really, really cool.
Uh-huh.
Like they would do 2.5D, which was basically
Mhm.
doing puppet animations in After Effects, very unconventional. And
Nice.
so I worked 2 years before that, and then I came back to Pakistan. And sorry,
Mhm.
then I did my masters.
Okay.
And during my masters, I didn't. I was just taking freelance projects. I didn't have a job during that
Mhm.
time.
ओके. तो आप मास्टर्स करके पाकिस्तान जब आए तो डिड यू डिड यू स्टार्ट डिज़ाइनिस्ट राइट आफ्टर कमिंग बैक, या व्हेन डिड यू लाइक व्हेन डिड इट स्टार्ट?
When coming back to Pakistan after my masters, I didn't start designers right away. I actually had no desire to start a design agency or a company. I really wanted to
Mhm.
naturally practice. I was a grad from a masters. I wouldn't be considered fresh grad, but I just graduated.
Mhm.
So working, I would always advise everybody work first before
Mhm.
starting a company. So I worked as a head of design for two different design agencies in advertising. And what I was trying to do
Okay.
was, sorry?
No, I was just saying like very different career path to what I was thinking about. But yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I was stuck in advertising. I mean, that's where
Okay.
you practice design here. I think still majority of design practice in Pakistan is in marketing and advertising.
Hmm.
So I got stuck there, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
But I just didn't. It did not resonate with me. And what I was trying
Hmm.
to do was sell UI UX design as a value added service that the agencies could give to their clients. Now, my
Hmm.
bosses didn't understand this. A lot of the clients didn't understand this. And I was really stuck. I was really frustrated. I was like, यार मुझे social media post नहीं बनाने. मैंने दो masters
Hmm.
इस वजह से नहीं किए कि मैं post निकालूं. So
Yeah.
I ended up, one of our clients was ended up becoming a mentor to me. And we would exchange books and discuss things around that. And I went to that mentor and I asked him, कि यार, I'm frustrated and I'm going to start my own agency. And what is the advice that you can give me? And I don't remember his advice, but he said, here's a 3 month retainer and go and prove yourself. And that's how
Hmm.
Designist began. And we ended up having
Oh,
that client for 2 years, and then it continued like more clients over time.
oh,
And
that's
Ali
amazing.
Cheriar was the first person who joined me. He was working with me at my first agency. I took him to the second agency. Then I said, यार अली
Okay.
मैं तुम्हें तनख्वाह दे सकता हूँ 3 महीने के लिए आके ज्वाइन कर लो. you know he's like, yeah, sure. And the only reason I hired him in the first two agencies because he was the only graduating student from Indus Valley at that time who had even understood a little bit about interaction design. तो मैंने बोला यार तुम्हें
Okay.
जितना भी आता है आ जाओ, we'll figure something out. So that's the kind of inception of Designist.
Okay, so what, और ये कौन सा साल है? What year is this?
This is about 8 years ago. So
Must be like
2017, around
six.
that time. 16,
Okay,
17, around that time.
16, 17. तो
Mm.
like I'm a bit I'm wondering about कि आपने जब इंटरेक्शन डिज़ाइन और यूआई यूएक्स डिज़ाइन को पुश किया टू द क्लाइंट्स व्हेन यू वर वर्किंग एट द एजेंसी,
Mm.
I'm just trying to understand the landscape of interaction design at that point in Pakistan. क्योंकि आई नो कि इस तकरीबन सेम टाइम है जब कॉन्फ्रेंसेस स्टार्टेड हैपनिंग इन पाकिस्तान, when the UX design group was formed in Pakistan as well, तकरीबन उसी
Mhm.
टाइम पे शायद बना होगा. And that's also the time when I heard about Designist and Ideate Innovation भी, I guess it started around the same time. There was
Yeah.
like a very अचानक, शायद अचानक से for people like me, but like अचानक से design was like becoming very very vibrant. तो the clients that you were talking to, like उनकी कोई main reason थी for rejecting like your proposals in and not going into interaction design, like.
I think at that time I think they just didn't understand what it was. You know, they didn't know that they needed it. And still
Mhm,
today, I think a lot of companies are still like that.
mhm,
बस मार्केटिंग में पैसे स्पेंड करो, प्रोडक्ट पे नहीं कर रहे हो. लाइक आई डोंट वांट टू नेम
yeah,
एनीबॉडी, बट स्टिल सो मेनी कंपनीज, लाइक ऑल द एड्स यू सी, उनसे बात करो यार, वो इतने पैसे खर्च कर रहे हैं मार्केटिंग पे. यार ऐप पे उसका 5% भी खर्च कर लो, कुछ बेहतर हो जाएगा. यू नो, लाइक
yeah,
राइड हेलिंग टू फूड डिलीवरीज to some
exactly.
financial wellness apps. Like, yeah, they're not thinking about real problems, you know. And at that time also when started, right, like UX Pakistan had just started, UXDP had just started.
Yeah.
I think products ke hawale se, I think the initial early adopters were the startups, right? Because they needed their
Mhm,
products to work, to adopt. I
yeah,
think banks came a lot later. They were like, yeah, user
yeah,
experience is important. Let's fix that.
mhm,
Telcos jumped in quite early because they had external influence. I know Telenor had their own kind of lab, and then I think ND2C के फौरन बाद, I think आपका within 1 or 2 years, IBM
mhm,
helped set up the design lab at UBL. So around that
mhm,
time was kind of the boom of, or
yeah,
early boom, I would say. I don't think it ever boomed. It still hasn't boomed. I think there's
right,
always talk about AI, but design is still something that people don't understand, and they think of it
mhm,
as, you know, कि यार कुछ बनाना है versus कि
mhm,
कुछ सोच के बनाना है. But design is really
mhm,
much कि आप Photoshop खोल लो या Figma खोल लो और
yeah,
बस pixel push कर लो. And
mhm,
I think the people who understand it are the people who approach organizations like Designist or Ideate
mhm.
to actually help improve human behavior.
Okay. So the early days of Designist, can you tell me how you grew the team in those early days? Ali Shehryar का आपने बताया you onboarded him early on because of the project. How were the early days like? Were they difficult? Were they exciting?
I think the early days were strange. It was really an exciting time and a difficult time because
Mhm,
I was learning how to do design operations as well as business operations.
mhm,
And man, that was really, really tough. I didn't know anything about taxes and registrations. And I still remember our first client, like a bigger client, other than like we had Multinet as a client initially that I was talking about for like 1 or 2 years. But you
mhm,
know, payments were happening, but I didn't know anything about filing. But then when I got Afan as a client, then they were like,
mhm.
आपका registration नहीं हुआ है, ये नहीं हुआ है, वो नहीं हुआ है. पता चला कि मुझ पे टैक्स पेनल्टीज भी लग रहे हैं. And I'm like, oh my god, like what the hell is this, you know? So
Okay.
I had to like get the right people in the team. Luckily, my life partner Ujala, she also joined me.
Yeah.
She was working in internal audit at HBL at the time. And I
Okay.
was like, listen, you're a chartered accountant, you understand these numbers and tax things and admin, please join me. And because of her internal audit background, she could also help in service design projects. So
Mhm,
she
mhm,
had joined me. I had Zen Zulfikar, he joined me. I had given
mhm,
him a book about service design while we were working at one of the agencies. He had also moved
mhm,
with me to the second agency. I was just waiting to have enough cash flow so I could also bring him on board. So he joined me. And then we had a few others, but between me, Ali, Zain, we were kind of running the design operations, and that's how it started. And then with new clients coming in, we started
mhm.
expanding. I had, समझ लो कि वो garage वाला जो studio होता है ना, मेरे घर के
Yeah.
एक कोने में 10 by 20 का एक कमरा था. Luckily, I
Okay.
set up shop there. So, you know, you need to keep your expenses low.
Mhm.
I didn't pay myself a salary for almost 3 years. and the
Okay,
company was
that's
surviving, but I wasn't making money yet. I
uh,
and my chacha, I still told me, like, being from the Habib family, he's like, bro, अपने आप को तो salary दो. Even if you book it as a loss, I was like, I don't have the money.
uh,
He's like, just put it down, book it as a loss. And it's interesting, like when I started booking it as a loss, I was like, नहीं ये तो मुझे recover करना है. So I ended up figuring out a way how to pay myself. And when I figured out how to pay myself, then the motivation obviously became a lot more to work in different way, figure out pricing. And then after I think 1 year or 1.5 years, then we finally got an office space in Shara Faisal, and we took one half first, and then right before COVID, we expanded to the second half, and we ended up getting one whole floor of a building at Shara
nice.
Faisal.
That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
you've worked with government agencies, you've worked with banks, you've worked with startups, you even worked internationally, like you had a project running in Africa recently. Uh, what has been the most challenging project yet for Designist?
And challenging in terms of what? I mean, we've had many challenges. So, from a particular perspective, would you like to know?
Could be anything, could be from the point of view of the client that you had to handle, or could be from the point of view of design deliverables, like the design process that you had to go through. Like I know that you talked about like before जो आपने project अफ्रीका के अंदर किया था the fintech project, like you talked
Hmm.
about that a little with me. That sounded interesting. What
Yeah,
else?
so
Like,
yeah, so challenges, I think the biggest challenge in doing the work is really getting the client to let go. They sometimes usually have a solution that they have in mind, and they're like, bas Hasan ye bana lo, and what
mm,
ends up happening is that you don't end up building the right thing.
mm,
And that's really important for us to say, no, yeah, research karna hai. And one interesting example, and I mean, the client also has to be comfortable with the way you're working. So, if you
yeah,
take Abhi, it used to be called Abhi Finance, maybe at that time, the payday
mm,
loan app.
yeah,
And it was a really interesting project because when they came on, they were like, ये बाहर में ये application earned wage access का ऐसे चल रहा है बस let's just make it up branding कर दो ये कर दो वो कर दो. And I'm like, okay, sure. I was like, look, just budget some time for research and testing, but they hadn't necessarily done that initially. And then we
mm,
designed it, and after designing it, I was like, listen, before you take this to dev, let's test it because their target audience was again blue collared, grey collared workers. जो बंदे का तनख्वाह 30,000 से 50,000 के दरमियान में.
right,
And I said, let's test it with these people to see here is it going to actually work. So when
mm,
we tested it, we literally हम ऑफिस में गए लोगों के जो ऑफिस बॉयज हैं पियोन्स हैं जो भी हैं उनको पकड़ के यूजेबिलिटी लैब में लेके गए और फिर पता चला कि ये लोग इस ऐप को इस्तेमाल कर ही नहीं सकते समझ में नहीं आया उनको.
okay,
And but we tested with like insurance brokers and all who were also in the beginning. They were like, "ये तो बहुत अच्छा है, बहुत easy है." So I was like, "Look, it's easy to work for a specific audience, but the audience that you're trying to target, it's not working for them." So we went
mm,
back to the drawing board and we redesigned it. And then Khadim Bhai, who works with us, who sells us tea and takes care of the office, he ended up being the largest borrower from Abhi. And we're like, यार भाई slow down, वो मसला क्या है यार हमसे पैसे ले लो. But point is that it became so sticky that
mm,
it actually was very successful. And then you can go and see they raised millions of dollars, and they're
mm,
one of the most successful startups in Pakistan. So I mean, I wouldn't say it was very challenging, but it was like, it was one of those things that design makes a huge difference on. I think one of the most challenging projects were, I'm not going to take the name of the client. We ended up losing people in our organization because of that client. And it was the
okay,
highest paid client that Designers has ever had. It was like double the retainer fee of any other client. And but the challenge was that the expectations from us. So
mm,
we were essentially augmented to them. So what ended up happening is that we had to work on their terms, work on their times, and then they were having unreasonable expectations कि आप फ्रंट एंड भी करके दो. We're like, no, we're a design company, we don't do
Mhm.
front end, but आप किसी तरीके से कर लो. And I don't know what, it was
Mhm.
really complicated stuff. And then what ended up happening is that our people started feeling alienated. They didn't feel like, okay, they're working for designers. They felt that they were working for that other company. And फिर उनकी
Right.
बस हो गई. And I think um, from um, from a contractual perspective, also from a law perspective, I learned
Mhm.
something. This is a message to all of you. Like, make sure your contracts are airtight, especially for design organizations and freelancers, where you have an exit clause. One of the
Mhm.
biggest challenges was that we always have this exit clause, like either the other company or us can give
Mhm.
1 month of notice period and then your contract is terminated.
Okay.
They removed that from our contract. And when
Really?
we asked them, why are you removing this from the contract? They were like, we're hiring you, we're paying you. What reason do you have to fire us?
Oh my
And
God.
and literally like 6 months into the project, I had like 10 reasons.
Oh my God. Okay.
And anyways, so that was probably the most challenging at time at designers. We were making the most money at that time, but
Mhm.
we had turnover because the culture was getting ruined. Like
Right.
what we
Right.
stood for was getting ruined.
ओके सो आपने अभी की बात की फॉर सिचुएशंस लाइक दीज कि जहां आपको एंड आपका एंड प्रोडक्ट तो एक यूज़र के लिए है जिसने अगेन अभी की ऐप यूज़ करनी है बट लाइक
Hmm.
उसकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन जो हो रही है आई नो कि
Hmm.
यू कोलैबोरेट लाइक अभी कोलैबोरेट्स विद different employers who then
Hmm.
use their app to like
Hmm.
provide the users with money.
Hmm.
So how do you approach that? Like, isn't there a like significant amount of collaboration that's being done with the companies? So, like, are you involved in that? Is अभी like during the design process? I just want to understand कि उसमें आपकी कोई involvement थी? You did the research and everything. You made the app as well. But like वो जो एक middle man है जिसने वो चीज़ implement करवानी है या provide करनी है, like were you in contact with them or like were you in any ways like doing research on them?
So, I mean, what you're talking about is a B2B2C business, right? And
Yeah.
what ends up happening is that Abhi is selling to somebody else who's then implementing for their employees.
Yeah.
So any project like that, be it Abhi or be it some other companies that we worked with, it's about
Hmm.
understanding all customers' needs. So yes,
Right.
100% the need of the end user is very important, but it's as
Hmm.
important to also design for the person who needs to say reconcile all the payments that they've done to their employees because
Hmm.
they need to then pay Abhi. So we
Yeah.
built Abhi's app, but we also work with them on the like company portals where they
Hmm.
keep track of who's taken what loan.
Hmm.
So any project you need to work with all stakeholders. That's really really important. So even in the banking space, right? We work with account opening, digital account opening, Roshan Digital,
Hmm. Yeah.
and the customer will fill the form online and he'll submit it, or he'll go into a
Hmm.
branch and he'll submit it, and you can make that experience better.
Hmm.
But the experience doesn't end there, right? The experience ends when, say, your bank account's open, you got your debit card, or you get access to
Hmm.
that digital application.
Hmm.
There's a whole chunk of stuff that happens in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And designers also plays a role where we work with internal customers to understand what their customer experience is
Hmm.
or internal customer experience is. And believe it or not, like some things that we've seen in the most archaic way, like आगे फ्रंट एंड पूरा डिजिटल है. जब अकाउंट बैंक पे गिरता है तो वो प्रिंट आउट करते हैं, मैन्युअल एंट्री करते हैं, बार बार
Really?
कॉल करते कस्टमर. यस, एंड यू टॉक अबाउट डिजिटल ओनली इन द फ्रंट एंड बट आल्सो मेक इट डिजिटल ओनली इन द बैक एंड, राइट? It
Yeah.
defeats the purpose, right? And then
Exactly.
we've done other digital account opening experience. One of the
Hmm.
banks, they don't use the form anymore. It's amazing. वो सारा मुझसे information ले रहे हैं और कंप्यूटर पे इनपुट कर रहे हैं और
Hmm.
फिर एक ही पेज निकाल के उस पे साइन करवा देते हैं. And you're pretty much done. But if you go traditionally account opening, I think the most signatures I've done on my account opening form than on my own nikah.
Right. Ah.
So the point is you need to work with all stakeholders. And that's what makes
Right.
an overall great user experience, regardless of it being an online or offline touchpoint.
So, for people who want to open a design business or who are running a design business, especially who come from a background of design, ठीक है? एक तो वो हैं कि
Mhm.
जो just open the business और उसका एक नाम रख दिया जाता है, but like people who are shifting from like individual contributors or like freelancers to running a design agency maybe. How do you think कि जो वो business sense एक है, how do you develop that, or how can you grow as a business or as a business person?
It's a difficult question for me. My advice to you is don't do it. The reason why I'm saying that is, look, if you feel that you're making enough money doing what you're doing as a solopreneur, as we call them,
Mhm,
stick to that. Running a business is not easy. There's so many moving parts, especially for us as designers. It's one thing that okay, you have a business background and आपको एक एजेंसी खोलना है क्योंकि आपको पता है कि यार आईटी एक्सपोर्ट बहुत ज्यादा हो रहा है और आप ऑपरेशंस देख लोगे और फिर आप सीटीओ रख लोगे सीडीओ रख लोगे और फिर
mhm,
आप बिजनेस चला लोगे. But if you're a designer looking to start design business, you need to realize that running a business is running a business. You end up
mhm.
not getting a lot of time to actually do the design work that you love doing.
Yeah.
So you need to be okay and comfortable with the fact that शायद मैं I won't be there've been months where I haven't had design. I've just done sales and operations.
Mhm,
So you need to be ready for that. Two, you need to have the right people in place, right? Like you need your admin, finance, taxes,
mhm,
lawyers, office, utilities. Like these are all extra headaches that you need to ask yourself, yeah, do I want to take this on?
mhm,
Uh, and then the third reason is like, why is it that you want to start an agency? Like for me, the reason I started an agency was not necessarily because I wanted to make money. It was for very other purposes. So you need to really ask yourself, like, hey, like, is running a business the right thing for me?
mhm. Okay. And talking about having the right people with you, how do you maintain the culture? Like, I know there are like some really wonderful people at Designist. How do you get those amazing people with you?
I think culture is really important, and I think it's everything for us. There's also saying like culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
Uh, for me, people was it's always about passion, right? Like, hey, are you
Mhm,
passionate about what is it that you want to do? Two,
mhm.
how willing are you to learn and unlearn?
Right.
A lot of the
Mhm,
people who come through designers doors, they did not have backgrounds in UI UX design or service
mhm,
design. At least in the earlier stages, um, they had basic communication design skills. Or even then he was a documentary filmmaker, like completely
mhm,
different field altogether.
mhm,
And they had this passion to learn, and I think that is really important. And lastly, for designers, one of the other passions that you need to have is a passion for teaching. And the reason we have that is because designers, our vision is to enable people to design meaningful experiences, which means
mhm,
that we want to be able to learn how to do things, and then we want to impart this knowledge to others so they
mhm,
can do what we can do. In fact, I mean, we're disrupting ourselves all the time because we're
mhm,
openly sharing everything
mhm.
that we do, and we're fine with
Yeah.
that because that's the reason I came back, is to share
Mhm.
everything I know about design. So I feel that everybody in the organization needs to also connect with that and share.
So let's move to that part then, the teaching part. You also do like you teach at Habib University and you teach there like do you teach there full time or like are you like how does that work alongside design is like I'm confused.
So again, the core of why I do what I do is I want to bridge the gap between academia and industry.
Okay.
And the reason designers started was because I needed enough industry projects to be able to go and then teach at the university because I wanted to bring relevant information to the classroom. I didn't want to be
Hmm.
some old professor who just is teaching theory and has no idea कि दुनिया में क्या हो रहा है.
Okay.
So that's why designers started, and I ended up teaching at many other institutes and organizations and doing workshops before I joined Habib University. I have a interesting contract with Habib University. It's known as professor of practice, something professor of practice, assistant or associate. I don't know. This is. I also learned that I learned more about the corporate world after I joined Habib University. I had no idea how the corporate world operated in Pakistan, but this university operates in a corporate setting.
Okay.
And what ends up happening is I have a full-time contract with them, which is really interesting, where
Mm-hmm.
you get this contract based on you being a practitioner in the workspace. So I teach
Okay.
2 courses there, and then
Mm-hmm.
to get the full-time role, you also have to give service, which means you need
Mm-hmm.
to attend meetings, you need to contribute to the curriculum, you need to help recruit students, you need to do a lot of things. So, and
Mm-hmm.
I've dedicated that entire stuff to one day of the week. That's how, if I couldn't do anymore. So I said, okay, Tuesday is the day I go to Habib University in the morning, and then after
Okay.
my class, I go and take a swim, I eat lunch, I attend the faculty meeting, I do my office hours, I give the time to the students, and I
Mm-hmm.
teach in the afternoon again, and then I go home. So Tuesday is a day that's just dedicated to teaching for me.
So it's a full day of teaching on Tuesdays, like no other work, just like being
Yes,
there at Habib.
yes.
Amazing. That's wonderful. Okay, and like I know that a lot of your team members, like बहुत सारे अपनी individual capacity के अंदर भी either they're teaching something, like I know Vakar is teaching some courses online right now, like he's offering workshops.
Hmm.
Like many other are like I think Ravaz also teaches at Indus or Zabist, I'm not sure. But
Hmm.
like how do you encourage that? Like you've talked about the philosophy there, but like when they do join your team, is this something that like you आप नए आने वाले को स्पेशली मोटिवेट करते हैं बताते हैं like how do you transfer that aim and philosophy and like aspiration of teaching to others to your team members?
Look, I think we've made it. Before it was unsaid, now it's said in plain sight. Yeah, look, if
Hmm.
you're working a designers, you need to give back, you need to teach. You need to teach
Hmm.
in whatever capacity, be it through your LinkedIn platform, like how Vakar is doing it, be it through internal trainings like Hamza Siddiqui is doing it,
Hmm.
be it teaching externally at Habib University, as Vakar and Hamza and Hasnan. They're
Hmm.
all doing that. So it's very explicit now. Okay, hey, we're
Hmm.
doing this because we want to give back. And if you're
Hmm.
not doing it, then you're not aligning with the vision. And if you're not aligning with the vision, then this place might not be the place for you. So everybody is aligned on that. And because they align with that, they show up to work with that particular passion of doing that.
So my next question is that you work at Designist, like you see the operations at Designist, you teach at Habib University, and you have some other passion projects as well, personal projects that you handle over time. Uh, and जब मैं Designist में काम कर रहा था, at that point you mentioned that you were also diagnosed with ADHD at some point. So I want to talk about that a little. Okay, with all like with so many things happening, how do you even manage like so many different aspects of your life? Okay, there's a business running, there's teaching happening, there's like and I know you just launched Pixel Stitch. That's happening. You do Haboodle as well. You have stalls at certain like festivals or exhibitions, and then you're managing the ADHD part of it as well. So like वो कैसे होता है?
Yeah, all right, great question. I think ADHD or ADD in my case, I don't have the H, the hyper part,
Okay,
but sometimes I do, but that's all inside really.
okay.
Is I think the very nature of it is that you're a pinball, and it's about how do you get this pinball to go to the right compartments at the right time. ठीक
Hmm.
है? And for what I'm very lucky in one thing is that Alhamdulillah, I have a really good team at Designist.
Hmm.
So they've been given the autonomy to kind of design and operate the way they want to, and there's a process for that,
Hmm.
and I trust them 100% to deliver when the delivery needs to happen,
Hmm.
which allows for a lot of my time to get freed up because they're empowered to do what they need to do.
Hmm.
And then for me, I think I have a kida. Like most designers have this kida. Ke yaar, you can't be stuck in doing just one
Hmm.
thing. Like you have this
Yeah.
thing where यार मुझे ये भी करना है, वो भी करना है, वो भी करना है, वो भी करना है. And some people can manage, some people can't, right? It can be really
Mhm.
detrimental to some people because they don't end up doing anything. And
Yeah.
and for me, I went down that really rocky boat at one time. Ke I was like, yeah, बहुत ideas hai. I was spread, and then I realized that I nothing was really working too well. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
then I decided, कि नहीं, designist, my heart and soul is in designist. I need to make that
Mhm.
succeed, because
Mhm.
if that succeeds, then it enables me to do everything else. And then
Okay.
what I decided is I've limited my time to doing like 1 to 2 projects in a year.
Mhm.
And if they succeed, then great. If they don't succeed, then it's also okay, because at least it's fulfilling my need to try something new. And then managing with the ADD, ADHD, like it's about understanding what ADD or ADHD is, how is your brain wired, and then finding strategies that work for you. I never had to take medication, thank God, but you need to figure out what strategies are working for you, and then figure out what is it that you need to do and with your time. And I don't know. It just happens. Honestly, somehow things just fall into place. A larger power at play that's just enabling that to happen. And
Yeah.
one additional thing, just to add on this, is that I've made a conscious decision. Other than Haboodle, like I get some extra cash from Haboodle, but I've also decided that any additional projects that I take on now are going to be projects for social impact and social good. So they operate kind of in the non-for-profit realm.
Okay.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
And
That's
if
wonderful.
anything operates within the for-profit realm, then
Mhm.
we bring that part of Designers. So Designers has also done like Designers itself has done side projects as
Okay.
an extension of me. But
Mhm.
this is when, toward 2020, 2021, when things were booming, we
Mhm.
started doing design for equity things. So people would bring projects to us, and
Mhm.
we were like, यार पैसे नहीं दो, equity दे दो, या थोड़े पैसे दे दो और equity दे दो. So that
Mhm.
also fulfilled the need for me to, okay, you're doing design agency work, but you're helping starting a part of other startups. In fact, you were part of one of them, Taraki.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. That's uh when you were talking about like being a pinball, like feeling like being a pinball, but मतलब मुझे आपके उसके अंदर आपकी situation के अंदर या like if I take design is like what amazed me was the consistency of everything. Like you started Haboodle a long time ago, but it's still going on at some like you do see it somewhere sometime. Like even you start other projects, they are like they do continue somewhere. Like what I understand, like obviously I'm not diagnosed as such, but like मुझे खुद को लेके या बहुत सारे और डिज़ाइनर्स को लेके ये शायद समझ आता है कि व्हेन यू वर टॉकिंग अबाउट कि बहुत सारे आइडियाज़ होते हैं जो हम करना चाह रहे होते हैं एज डिज़ाइनर्स और एज क्रिएटिव पीपल द प्रॉब्लम कम्स के वी स्टार्ट वन थिंग एंड देन वी वेर लाइक fascinated by something else. I like आपको पता होगा कि at some point I was like talking about being like going into film and like making film and everything. Like the problem comes कि फिर सब कुछ छूट जाते हैं और फिर वो like you go there and then you go somewhere else then you go somewhere else. So yeah, that's wonderful, like understanding how you do that.
I think, look, there are two things, right? One is having a lot of ideas, one is having ADD, right? Like if you think that you have ADD, which is, I mean, it manifests in some ways like either you have hyper focus or you have no focus at all. Like if
Mhm.
you even feel like you have even this baseline
Mhm.
thing, if you feel like, if somebody gives you a task and you just do not have the motivation to do it, and even like it's like a mountain in front of you, and you just can't do it, right?
Mhm.
Because you just it's boring, it's interesting, and you just won't do it.
Mhm.
If you have these two things, maybe get yourself tested out.
Mhm.
You may have it. Uh, I
Okay.
think a lot of creatives just generally do have it.
Mhm.
Read up on it. There's a book called Scattered Minds. I think that's one book that changed my life in understanding ADD. It
Okay.
actually helped me go and get myself diagnosed.
Mhm.
And that also, my sister has been telling me the longest time, I think you have ADD, I think you have ADD, because she's a therapist. And then a friend of mine
Mhm.
had said, "Hey Hassan, read this book. I think we're like, so just check it out."
Okay.
But for a person who also has a lot of ideas and wants to
Mhm.
do a lot of things, I would say go ahead and do it. Even if it works, it doesn't work, it fails, because the very act of doing it is going to give you the dopamine or of KR. At least I did it. It worked or it didn't work. At least I did it.
Mhm.
So you fulfill that need, right? Like sometimes,
Mhm.
like Haboodle or all, like it's not really making money, but it fulfills my need to sit there, connect with people, create and do something.
Mhm.
Pixel Stitch enables me to empower women, give them stuff, and it's combining like pixel art, which I'm passionate about, and
Yeah.
embroidery, which I'm passionate about, and just seeing,
Mhm.
how do these two worlds come together, and can I make a sustainable business around it? It's still not sustainable. I'm still burning cash
Mhm.
every month, but the idea is like, do I have a model? Can I see it come to life?
Mhm.
But the important thing and the most important thing is you still need to have one stable thing जो आपका चूल्हा चलाएगा. Like
Right.
you can't do a bunch of ideas at the cost of not being able to have some kind of steady uh, income flow. Like
Mhm.
figure that out, have some kind of steady flow, decide whatever that number is for you. And
Mhm.
if you're achieving that number month on month on month, and then with a little bit more to do a cushion for your random experiments,
Mhm.
then go ahead and do it. But if you don't have that cushion, then then my advice is don't do it, because
Right.
you're putting your own life sustainability at
Mhm.
risk. And if you're a
Makes
student
sense.
whose parents are still taking care of them, or if they're at home and you have less expenses and you're just earning and you're a fresh guy, maybe still at home, you have extra cash, I'll say just go ahead, burn it. Like try your ideas. Like
Right.
don't even think about it. Like
Mhm.
yeah, I know you could buy that new expensive phone or that laptop
Mhm.
or whatever, but I would say take out some cash for yourself to just try random things. Like
Mhm.
you never know what might stick.
True. True. Also, for people who don't know about Pixel Stitch, can you like elaborate on that just for people to know what is it?
Yeah, so Pixel Stitch is uh, the latest project that I'm working on, which is that we are converting pixel art into cross stitch, and
Mhm.
there are women all over Pakistan that are doing this for us. Uh,
Mhm.
we have people in Shah Faisal Colony, we have women in Gilgit, we have a deaf school in Skardu, we have a girls' orphanage in Karachi, and they're different artisans who
Mhm.
we send these packets to. So we've service designed the hell out of this. So from
Okay.
looking at a design online or creating a design yourself to then creating it, it's called creating a pattern. So we create this pattern
Mhm.
on Illustrator, then we choose
Mhm.
dhagas, and then we create this packet and we give it to the artisan. And all they need to do is just, अगर उनको गिनती आता है or stitching आता है, then it works. So from an
Amazing.
operation perspective, we've got the operations down end to
Mhm.
end. One other thing you should know of when you're doing side projects or any projects,
Mhm.
making things is easy, selling things is the most difficult thing in any
True.
field, be it design agency, be it Pixel Stitch, be it Haboodle, be it,
Mhm.
I don't know, whatever it is. The making is the
Mhm.
easy part, selling is the hardest part. And if
True.
anybody who's listening to this and wants to help me with marketing and sales, please, for anything. Like sales is like my weakest thing. It's the hardest thing to do.
Wonderful. And you sell those as frameable artworks that you can hang on
Yeah.
the walls, right?
Yeah, frameable art pieces or on the t-shirt, or we're
Oh,
experimenting with different things. Yeah.
okay. I
No,
thought it would just these were just frames, right? But like,
so we
yeah.
discovered this thing where you get cross stitch fabric
Mhm.
that's dissolvable. So you put it on your shirt, वो stitch कर देते हैं, पानी में मिला दो, or it just literally becomes like jelly and comes off, and then the stitch is what's remaining on your shirt.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Okay,
yeah,
so for the end of the podcast, there are some quick questions जो मैं सबसे
yeah.
पूछता होता हूँ. So
So
I'll start with your favorite book Again, it's an open question. Could be about design, could be about anything else that you want to recommend to anybody.
My favorite book. I think my favorite book is The Boy uh, and Going Solo. I think it's a combo of both of them by Roald Dahl. And it's a storybook. It's a children's storybook. Going Solo is maybe a little bit on the adult side, but I think that's probably one of my favorite books because it's just about this child who does so many fun, creative things and then grows to being an adult. And Roald Dahl has many interesting stories. So for me, I think that's definitely one of my favorite books. But if you talk about designers in the modern world, who I mean, I haven't really seen much of their design work, but from a speaking perspective and a knowledge sharing perspective, I think Chris Do, he's really up there for me these days because the knowledge that he's sharing about running design businesses, I think, is really interesting to me, and I'm really enjoying his work. I think one really important thing, I mean, the advice I would give, uh, I think I'd already talked about what I see in people. What I see in people is curiosity, passion, and you should know the basics of design. Like you should just know how to design. That's on the most base level. Uh, Advice is network with the people at Designist. I think that's the most important thing because all new, fresh hires, I'm very rarely hiring people myself these days. So the team is the one who needs, you need to work with the team. So the team is mainly responsible of getting new people. So network with the team, get to know them on a personal level, uh, ask them how you can set yourself up to succeed. I think having a good portfolio is very, very important where it showcases actual problem solving skills, not just shashkas, because shashkas are something that if you practice enough, you can do it. But uh, how you showcasing actual problem solving skills, I think being a team player is very, very important. And lastly, how open are you to learning and sharing knowledge? I think these are very important things. So if you fit these kind of criteria, then please, we would love for you to be part of our team. Yeah, and all the best on duct tapes, and stay tuned for more interesting content that Raza puts out there. I think it's really commendable what you're doing. You've asked me all the questions, but this initiative of actually getting people to come on your podcast and talk about design, especially in Pakistan, like great initiative. And uh, yeah, shout out to Raza and for other people listening to the podcast. So keep it up.